Hello, friends. It is Troy, your hourly flipper. Thank you so much for joining. I have an unscripted episode for you because I had an experience that was so fruitful. I definitely wanted to share it, but I didn't have time to record it while it was happening. And again, it's something that I think everybody should need to know to find sourcing for things that sell really well on eBay and opportunities that you may miss as you're doing your sourcing. All right, let's jump right into it because you may notice a pile of DVDs and books here. Let me tell you the story. And here's tip number one already. There are lots of complaints out there about Goodwill's new pricing. And if you've watched a previous video, I'll put the card up there to tell you why I love Goodwill. But their prices are higher, undisputed. What I find is that in the niches of all of the sections of the store, there are still bargains to be found. For instance, North Face and clothing is a very popular brand, okay? So if someone is in the back and they are a pricer and they see a North Face emblem or the North Face tag, they're going to know to price that one higher because that's a wanted item. Those pricers may not know the name Patagonia, but we as resellers do. And so Patagonia vests may be cheaper than North Face attire. All right, that principle is true for clothing, but also books. So that is tip number one. Look for niche items on the shelves. I like books and media, and here's what that translates to on my second most recent visit to Goodwill. All right, when I'm in the back corner where the media and books are, I scan the shelves. And things that I'm particularly looking for are religious books and books that are unusual. Here's an example. Okay, I'm just going to go from the top to the bottom. This is a religious book made by a person. His name's Dr. Emmett Fox, and it's The Lost Booklets of Dr. Emmett Fox. That is pretty niche. You need to know Emmett Fox, and you need to want to know his booklets. Not many people care about this, and no one knew the name Emmett Fox. If you do, you know that this is a $20-ish book online, and I paid $1.59. Here is the golden goose that I found. Someone had donated all of their collection of DVDs from the BBC, which is difficult to say. I find that it is about 50-50 whether they are high value items or things that you may want for personal use, but really on eBay, they don't bring much more than a usual DVD. And it took a little bit of time to find which is which, but here are some names to look out for. The Thriller Complete Collection, as seen on PBS. And there are 43 different movie mysteries on there. So it's an amalgam, but you look for Acorn TV, BBC, knowing that they're foreign, okay? Now this is interesting. There was a show, this was on NBC a few years back, and it got 2 seasons called Timeless. And there are both of the DV series, but this is the UK version, not the US. And so that's even valuable. PBS, do you see this up at the top? That is from a BBC version. This one is Warwicker. Let me put that up there so you can see it. Interesting, huh? That is putting a pin in the DVDs for a second. Another thing that I'm always looking for is local history. And it can be local to my area or local someplace else. And here is a legacy book, and it is very thick about the Northeast. About a $20 book. No one else looked at it. I got this just for fun. It's called A Crack in the Cosmic Egg. Doesn't that seem quirky and unusual? I want that on my personal bookshelf. I don't know what it's about at all. Just you find things for personal use. That Timeless series, that's going to be on my shelf as well. Moving on. Secret Agent, okay? ITV is something else to look at. They have their BBC 1, 2, and 3. I think they have 4. But they also have independent television in the UK. And this was ITV produced. Secret Agent Danger Man. How's that for creative thinking? Doyle and Doyle, okay? And it has BBC and also E1. And an E being Europe, all right? So those were things that I found and worked through. And what I just listed for you were at least $20. The thicker sets were 30s. And since the pricer didn't know those names, Warwicker, who would know that except someone who really wanted it? All of those, are you sitting down? Were $1.59 a piece. So I'm going to take $1.59 and make it 20 to 30 with just taking pictures. I could do that all day. So I get home from that visit and I completely feel good. And it hits me overnight, you know, maybe that wasn't all of that person's collection that was out on the shelf. So at 9 o'clock the next day, I was at the Goodwill looking to see if there were some new media of those that have already been out. And guess what? They were. It was a smaller selection in the first day, but The Indian Doctor, directly from BBC, you may see that. And it is, I had to actually pull it out to find BBC. It's nothing on the spine of the DVD, but $1.59 to 20. The New Tricks collection, series 1 through 5. This is BBC. This one has Acorn out on the spine. So Acorn is a production company, you know, that you should be aware of. And that one is, notice, a thicker set and $1.59. That's going to be about 30. All right. Go back, get a second bite at the apple. If you find a particular Goodwill that has a set of something or something that they have a lot of, maybe if you go back, they're going to have even more. There's tips. We've got all of these tips. Look for niches. Go back to the same place. My third and last tip connected to the last visit is what I do and what is usually fruitful is, if you've seen any of my past videos, I scan each shelf in a boring fashion to see if there are titles or things that I'm jumped at. I told you, religious items, niche things. I scan my stack of things that I pull out initially because my time matters. I'm trying to do everything fast. But what I find that's beneficial is after I've got all the things that I want from that first pass, I go back and I look at the shelves again. Different things catch my eye. And in that second pass, I find things just as valuable. All right, here's an example. Things that I told you before that I look at. One, this was a peach bloom Bible. Still in its container. It is not wrapped, so it is going to be previously owned, but it's so pretty. $1.59, going to become $25. All right. This is a book on how to, local waters and how to make different alcohols from that. So it is a local history, but also how to make craft, IPAs, those kinds of things in the home. All right. Awesome. And then this is an example of a local someplace else book, Coeur d'Alene, which is in Idaho, and it is the illustrated history of that town from 1875 to 1990. That's like a $30 book, $1.59. That's the kind of thing that I look for. And I find that going in repeatedly, once a day or, several times a week, looking for those kind of items, it is still fruitful. Along the way, as I'm going in and out to the media section, I do scan the other shelves and I found a labeler. Labelers are something that often are of value. This is 99 cents. People think that this isn't that valuable, the people who are pricing, but that is about a $20 item. So my goodness, I've converted, I know this, about $24 worth. Everything that I have there is at least $20. So when I look at that, 8 and 16 it's 14, $280 minus the 25 that's out. I've made $240, and that is about going to be an hour and a half of work, right after I've listed those. So I'm making, in this instance, almost $100 an hour. That is great. Just by those principles that I set out. Let me review them again so that you have a clear understanding of the tips that I've offered in this video. A, look for the niches, okay? You're going to find pricing values there. Secondly, take a second bite at the apple. If you see a store with a collection of something, go back again looking for that particular item. Maybe they're there. Then the third thing is, after you've gone through and looked a first time, go back and look again. You'll find something that maybe your eye has overlooked. With all that said, I want to thank you for joining. Do you have any tips like this when you go into your store, you go into a yard sale that most every time you look for? There are a few people that I absolutely want to thank. First is Fletch Flips. One of the things that he has shared on his video, so search for him. He likes old hammers that are branded, and I would not have thought of that. And that's the kind of value that he shares, as well as how much he makes for the items that he shares. He has a nice, beautiful spreadsheet. Love that. The second thing is Planet ARP, A-R-P. Search for them both on eBay and on YouTube. What's interesting is they're doing all of their eBay work from inside a camper. So they have such a wonderful personality, and their area is so interesting that the tips that they do share, it is elevated because you care about them as a person and you want them to succeed. So check those two out as other resources you may have. I also personally want to thank my wife. I am doing this kind of off-the-cuff video inside her office. She has made it available for me so you can see some interesting things in the background, something you don't usually get here. So thank you again so much for joining. Have a great day.